What to eat before blood work to get the best results? That's a question that was asked. Regan, what can I eat that will yield the best results because I'm getting a blood work that will qualify me for life insurance? And whether you're doing it for life insurance or you just want to have really good blood labs, in this video I'm going to show you the foods that you can eat to really amplify some of the benefits. I'll show you how to get that LDL, that tricky part of the cholesterol that your doctor wants to fixate on, show you how you can lower that pretty immediately. And then I'll also show you some of the ways that you can optimize your health while we talk. If you look at the foods that you want to eat, the things you don't want to eat. So let's just kind of reverse engineer this. So imagine that you're getting your blood drawn and you're at a birthday party. And at the birthday party, there's pizza. And then with the pizza, they bring in soda. And then after the sodas comes in the alcohol. And then after the alcohol comes in the birthday cake. What do you think your labs are going to look like? Well, you're going to look pre-diabetic. Actually, your hemoglobin A1C is a 90-day snapshot, so it may not influence that at all, but your glucose will be too high the next day. You'll see your fasting insulin be elevated because so much insulin's in your blood trying to absorb all that sugar. You'll also see elevated levels of triglycerides because of the fat and the sugar that you've consumed. You'll see higher levels of cholesterol because you're eating more sugar. And yes, cholesterol will be higher because of sugar over eating fat and protein. So if we reverse engineer it, we say, what can we eat? Well, as I dove into the research, here's a study, and the title is Dietary Fiber and Serum Cholesterol. Now, why did I start here? It's probably because that's the marker that most doctors focus on is cholesterol. And what we're learning in the research is that these cholesterol, HDL, LDL, they're very important markers, but having them superficially or artificially low by the use of statins or cholesterol blocking medications might not be the smartest thing because cholesterol is such an important part of your health. Cholesterol helps support cell structures, it's the first hormone that your liver makes, but it's also how many people end up on a medication that they may not have needed if they did this one thing. So let's jump into the study. So what was this study about? There were 67 controlled trials to examine the effect of dietary fiber on total cholesterol and LDL cholesterol. And what they concluded after these 67 controlled trials, that by consuming 25 to 30 grams of soluble fiber daily reduced LDL cholesterols, and the authors concluded that dietary fiber, it's proven, it's a non-pharmacological intervention for lipid improvement, especially when it's sustained over weeks and months. So that means if you can consume 25 to 30 grams of fiber every single day, and you do that for the rest of your life, you're going to keep cholesterol levels that are adequately healthy. And what's fiber good for? Well, fiber is really good for the bacteria in your gut because that's what your gut feeds on, these bacteria. And then the bacteria are responsible for all the nutrient signaling and the protein degradation in your body. They help your body build muscle. They help lower inflammation. Fiber is also what gives you really good bowel movements. So if you struggle with that morning bowel movement, there's a Chinese emperor and he said, happiness is a cup of tea and a bowel movement. And so life can be very simple when the digestive system's working. And so by getting adequate levels of healthy soluble fiber, 25 to 30 grams, that's where you can actually help point your labs in the right direction. The other thing you want to do is aim for an anti-inflammatory diet. So making sure that you're doing this, ideally 90 days before your blood labs is where you really want to start because this is your lifestyle. And if you're really looking to get an accurate assessment on your blood labs, you just want to eat how you always eat and then go get your blood work done so you have a baseline and then apply some of these principles and then recheck in 90 days. So start eating the fiber and then apply the anti-inflammatory diet. What the anti-inflammatory diet consists of is this is where you're focusing on good healthy protein sources, bison, elk, venison, grass-finished beef. These are all really good sources of meat. You can get a little bit of organic chicken, but chicken, the omega-6 profile makes it a little more inflammatory. So if you eat too much chicken, you may see some of your cholesterol markers may be off. You may see more inflammation from C-reactive protein profile. Chicken, unfortunately, because they're pecking on the ground, even if they're free-range chickens, they're going to pick up some arsenic. And so you want to watch your arsenic loads if you eat a lot of chicken. The other thing you want to do is add in some fermented foods, a little bit of sauerkraut, kimchi. Now, if you have small intestine bacterial overgrowth or digestive issues, this may cause a histamine response. So, this is where it's nice to have your blood work done and have somebody who's knowledgeable in helping point you in the right direction, is where you can use food as medicine. But one thing that will happen is your eosinophils, if you're eating too much fermented foods, those can be really high. So if you eat a bunch of kimchi or sauerkraut the day before your test, you may see an elevation in eosinophils. So be aware of that. And then the biggest thing is the processed foods. We talked about that big birthday party you went to, and the pizza, usually if it's brought in from most pizza places, are totally processed foods. You look at the ingredients in the flour, and those ingredients to make the pizza would be illegal in Europe. But in the United States, we tolerate far too many preservatives and artificial colors and sweeteners, and that starts to disrupt your gut, which will influence your labs. So you'll see this marker called ALK-Phos, or alkaline phosphatase, and you'll see that marker get really low if you've been eating a lot of processed foods. And it's one of the markers that shows if you've got leaky gut or intestinal permeability. You may also see in your labs, if you've been eating some of those processed foods, an elevation in triglycerides. For longevity, you want your triglycerides below 100, even if your LDL and HDL cholesterol is higher. We're actually finding in the literature that people who lived past 100, the one common denominator in all of the blood work that was conducted, and this study was conducted over the course of 30 years, and the ones that made it past 100, they all had cholesterol levels that would be considered elevated. So their total cholesterol was in the 230s, 240s, 250s. Their LDL levels were in the 130s, 140s, 150s. Their triglycerides were low. Their blood urine nitrogen was healthy. Their creatinine levels were healthy. Their glucose was healthy, hemoglobin A1C, but the cholesterol tends to go higher as we age because it protects your brain. So if you're going to get your blood work ran, seed oils are the other thing you want to avoid. There's a great book called Dark Calories by Kate Shanahan. And she was a nutritionist for the Lakers. She worked directly with Kobe Bryant. She was just a phenomenal researcher. I had her on my podcast about 6 months ago. So you can go to Ageless Future, find that podcast episode with her if you'd like. But she calls them the hateful eight. So there's seed oils that you want to avoid, like cottonseed oil. You want to avoid any kind of vegetable oils, canola oils. These can cause more inflammation in your body. If you're consuming high levels of protein, that can show up in your labs if you're not digesting them. So if you have acid reflux and you're taking like Tums or omeprazole, something to block the acid, you may see excess amounts of protein in the blood. You may have like an 8 where we want you closer to like a 7. If you also are consuming high levels of protein, your blood urea nitrogen and your creatinine levels may be elevated. If you do take creatine as a supplement, sometimes creatinine levels can be elevated as well. So be aware of those. But the thing that you want to look at is if you are trying to get life insurance ready, you want to get in that optimal range. The thing that you also got to be careful with is if you're using like enclomiphene or testosterone, or anything to increase your body's testosterone. Once again, be cautious of these. The other thing you want to do is before the night of your test, you'll be in a fasted state. If you overeat, you may spike your insulin levels, and then you'll have more insulin in your blood. And in fasting, insulin is a pretty stable marker, but just don't overeat. And it's probably something that's smart to do on a regular basis. One of the things that I like to do is I just like to live my life as I always live and then get my blood work done just so I can see an accurate perspective of how my previous 90 days or 60 days, I run my blood labs pretty frequently, but I can look back historically and I track what I eat, what my exercise routines are, what peptides I'm taking, the supplements I'm taking, and that gives me a really good baseline so that then I can make appropriate adjustments to my labs. So as you're going through these, you're going to want to look at functional ranges. One of the things that my team and I do at Ageless Future is we look at over 100 different biomarkers and we run it through a functional medicine lens, and we'll help you understand where the deficits are in your labs, where the deficiencies are, the interferences, and then we can help you strategize and get clarity on the pathway forward. So if you're interested in getting those labs ran, we have a special discount for all the listeners and all the followers here on YouTube. Thanks for being part of our community. Just click on the link below and it'll take you to agelessfuture.com, and we'll be happy to get your blood labs ran. I'm Regan Archibald. I'll see you on the next video.